When the world gets chaotic and the headlines seem to only scream bad news, when plans change overnight, here's the leadership truth that doesn't change. You cannot lead others through uncertainty if you aren't first leading yourself. Complexity reveals gaps in confidence, in clarity, in emotional steadiness that smooth seasons tend to hide. Today, we're going to unpack 7 ways strong leaders anchor themselves first and then lead from that place. And we're going to do this with real strategies that you can start using today to stay calm, decisive, and effective no matter what's swirling around you. 1, center yourself first. When times are chaotic, your first leadership responsibility is internal, to ground yourself before you move outward. A leader's nervous system becomes the nervous system of the team. If you're chaotic, rushed, or reactive, it seeps invisibly into every meeting, every decision, and every conversation that you touch. Centering yourself isn't about adding another task. It's about setting a leadership tone from the inside out. One powerful way to center yourself is through a daily ritual, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And this might look like writing down intentions for the day, or perhaps stepping outside for a few deep breaths, or to listen to birds with the Merlin app, or simply asking yourself, who do I want to be today? Simple acts done consistently retrain your brain to respond to pressure from a grounded place rather than a panicked one. And over time, this will become your default state, not a forced behavior. In strong leadership playbooks, centering practices aren't treated as optional wellness activities. They're viewed as performance infrastructure. The leaders who survive and thrive through complexity are the ones who take personal grounding seriously. So I encourage you to give yourself permission today to start your practice, even if it feels small. 2, protect strategic thinking time. In complexity, it's easy to become purely reactive, running from meeting to meeting, problem to problem, without time to actually think. And I'll tell you, I hear this all the time from senior leaders. Their calendars are literally back to back with meetings all day, with no time to think, to breathe, or to process. But reactive leadership doesn't allow you to lead from a place of depth, and instead it creates a shallow leadership. Strong leaders don't just solve problems. They anticipate them, and that can only happen if you intentionally protect time to rise above the daily noise and demands. I encourage you to block at least 90 minutes a week for strategic reflection, and I think this is one of the highest return habits that you can build. And this isn't luxury time, it's necessary time. I want you to use it to ask hard questions. What patterns are emerging? What early warning signs am I ignoring? Where are we overcomplicating things unnecessarily? Thinking time lets you lead at the level your team needs, not just the level that your inbox demands. And look, I know, easier said than done. When there are more meeting requests than there are hours in the day, it can feel impossible to carve out time. But I encourage you to truly assess the time on your calendar. So, in terms of meetings, for example, do you have to be there, or can you send someone from your team? Or perhaps the meeting can be shorter. We get so accustomed to these 30 and 60-minute blocks, but maybe you can have a shorter meeting. Or even better, can the meeting be eliminated altogether, with collaboration instead happening asynchronously through the use of knowledge hubs and collaboration tools? In every great leadership system, including the way that I coach leaders in my programs, structured thinking time is treated like a non-negotiable appointment with your future self. This isn't about perfection. It's about carving out space to lead on purpose and not by accident. Number 3, protect your margins for yourself and your team. In fast-moving environments, it's dangerously easy to burn through your margins without noticing. Leaders often pride themselves on endurance, but complexity punishes leaders who run at their limits for too long. When you operate without margin, without space to think, to feel, recover, you can end up leading from a place that feels brittle, impatient, and short-term. Protecting your margins starts by actually building white space into your calendar. And I think white space is critically important. This means blocking breathing room between your meetings. It can also mean understanding the rhythm of how you work, and each person is different. So, for example, do you need time to get your head around your day in the morning? Then block it. Block 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whenever you start. Do you have to step away to clear your mind every few hours? Block it. It means saying no to tasks that others could easily do on their own. It means refusing to see exhaustion and busyness as a badge of honor. And your people may be your team, it could be your family or your children. Your people notice more than you realize, and they will model your pace and health, not just your directives. The leadership systems that endure complexity are built on sustainability, not burnout. Margin isn't weakness. It's the infrastructure that allows strength to be consistent instead of sporadic. And leaders who understand this principle don't just survive long seasons of change, they lead with staying power. Number 4, challenge false certainty. So one of the most dangerous temptations in complexity is pretending you know what you don't. Leaders sometimes cling to false certainty because admitting uncertainty feels vulnerable. And I get it. I have worked in environments where even the hint of not knowing would open the door to things that we don't want. Things like authority erosion, confidence in your abilities being called into question, and even in some instances, career deceleration. I understand, and I know that all advice must take into consideration the culture in which you operate. But in truth, false certainty is far riskier. It leads to poor decisions, eroded trust, and missed opportunities. Strong leaders learn to name uncertainty without surrendering authority. This is key. Uncertainty isn't a shrug with a, your guess is as good as mine. No, instead it sounds like, here's what we know. Here's what we're watching closely, and here's our next best move based on today's information. It also sounds like curiosity, being open to alternative perspectives, data, and suggestions. Humility paired with decisive action is one of the most stabilizing leadership postures you can take in turbulence. It tells your team we're navigating wisely. We're not guessing blindly. Momentum building leadership playbooks don't train you to fake confidence or to have to pretend to know things that you don't. We know you don't have a crystal ball. I coach leaders to build real earned confidence, the kind that can absorb ambiguity and still move forward. And I'll tell you, that's a huge part of becoming the kind of leader that others trust most, especially when the road gets rough. Number 5, focus on decisions, not perfection. In complexity, waiting for the perfect answer usually means missing the moment. Speed and agility matter, and not reckless speed, but the ability to make thoughtful, best available decisions without paralyzing yourself or your team in endless loops of overthinking. And this is challenging, and it's also quite nuanced, especially when the stakes are high. But as you've likely heard before, overthinking leading to putting off making the decision is in itself a decision. I suggest creating a metric to help you determine when you will make a decision. So, for example, you may adopt a 70% or an 80% rule, whereby you say, if you have roughly 70 or 80% of the information that you need, you make a decision and take action. You communicate openly that decisions may evolve as new information surfaces, and that adaptability isn't weakness, it's strength. Leadership in today's dynamic environment isn't about making a perfect call once. It's about making strong calls continuously. Momentum-focused leadership emphasizes decisive iteration over hesitant perfection. And great leaders understand that there is no such thing as complete certainty. Instead, they model how to move wisely, adjust quickly, and keep momentum alive. 6, shorten feedback loops. When conditions change rapidly, slow feedback becomes costly. In complexity, the faster you can gather insight, course correct, and communicate adjustments, the healthier your leadership ecosystem becomes. Slow loops lead to bigger misses and erode trust. Consider strategies like building in short weekly check-in sessions with your teams, Host 2-minute debriefs after projects or initiatives, focusing on what worked, what didn't, and what needs to change. Normalize learning in real time rather than delaying until formal reviews. The faster your feedback loops, the faster your team evolves into a resilient, self-correcting system. Strong leadership playbooks don't just teach crisis response. They train leaders to create adaptive learning environments, fast, visible, and importantly, shame-free. That's the level of agility that wins in complexity. And lastly, number 7, train for adaptability, not just execution. Complex environments reward adaptive thinkers. The leaders who thrive aren't just executing last year's playbook harder. They're helping teams solve new problems in new ways, quickly and creatively. You can train for adaptability. For example, you can run scenario drills. What if X happened tomorrow? How would we respond? You can celebrate creative pivots just as much as successful executions. You can build in rewards for learning agility, not just for checking tasks off of a list. Encourage curiosity and continuous learning. Leadership frameworks like the ones I use in coaching executives show you how to train your people and yourself to adapt wisely without losing momentum. In times of rapid change, that's a competitive advantage that no title can guarantee. Leading yourself first and then operating from that place is not selfish, it's strategic. I'm a huge believer in the importance of personal or self-leadership as the foundation for effective team and organizational leadership. When you are steady, focused, and adaptive, you give everyone around you permission to follow your lead. In our next episode, we're stepping beyond you and further into your teams. How do you lead people powerfully through uncertainty without losing heart or momentum? And the lessons in the next episode apply whether you're an executive leading large teams, a manager, an individual contributor, a founder, an entrepreneur, a creator, or a full-time caregiver. Anyone who interacts with others, needs others to help them accomplish their goals, or needs to influence and guide others will benefit from the strategies that I'll be sharing. So I encourage you to stick with me. You're not just surviving complexity, you're building your strongest leadership and influence yet. Ask you to please share, like, and subscribe. All of these actions are really important to letting the algorithms know to share this show with more people. See you next time.